This is our first cycle trip that we've done, and that's something I think we both didn't expect. Is that there's this great sense of community among people who are touring by bicycle, whether it's like bikepacking or touring. Is that we're like all together, on the same shifting perception somehow. Like you're on the same road sometimes, and then on the same travels, and you're sharing certain experiences together.
Welcome to the Seek Travel Ride podcast, where we share the stories and experiences of people who have undertaken amazing adventures by bike. Whether it's crossing state borders, mountain ranges, countries or continents, we want to share that spirit of adventuring on two wheels with our listeners. Tout est possible. Everything is possible. It's a phrase you hear from both Chiara and Michiel at the start of each of the videos in their YouTube series, Handbike Packing. This series documents their Guinness World Record ride travelling from Alaska to Mexico. But this record attempt isn't just challenging because of its distance. In 2013, Michiel Desmet incurred a spinal cord injury which would drastically change the course of his life. So this record attempt would be made on a handbike. Instead of turning the pedals with his legs, he'd be using his arms to power the bike forward. Chiara also had a big role to play, cycling alongside Michiel on a heavy-laden touring bike, carrying all their food, camping equipment, and other items they needed to complete the trip. Alaska to Mexico. It's actually hard to compute that kind of distance on a bike, and my mind goes into overdrive thinking of all the complexities of this trip. But there's that saying again, tout est possible. So, I'm very happy to introduce our guests for today's podcast, Michiel Desmet and Chiara Maffina. Hi everyone. Just a quick note to say I caught up with Michiel and Chiara while they were staying at their Warm Showers host in La Paz, Mexico. Apologies for the little bit of background noise that you'll hear on and off during the audio. Chiara and Michiel, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
What I like to start with on the podcast, and I ask all my guests, is something cycling related, but a little bit different. It is, can you remember the first bicycle that you ever rode? Chiara, can you remember the first time you ever rode a bike and what that bike was like?
I think I was, like 3 or 4 years old. I think it was just a simple bike for kids. in the street of my house.
What about you, Michiel?
I think the first memory of a bike that I have when I was like 4 or 5, I had, which was like in the 80s, right? I had this bike which was kind of futuristic. It was like a white futuristic bike, and it had all these buttons on it that could make different sounds. And I remember driving it on the beach in the sea, and I completely messed the whole bike up driving it in the sea and totally broke it. And I remember being really sad because I really liked that bike because it had all the futuristic sounds, like for example, if you push a button, it's doing like I don't know.
I always think that when we first discover the cycling, there's a sense of magic to it. And I often wonder when, if that's a sense of magic that we get still when we are adults on our bikes too sometimes. So obviously it's not normal. Well, I don't think it's a normal thing to do where you just make up the decision to break a Guinness World Record and hand bike your way from Alaska all the way down to Southern California. And there's obviously quite a lot of background to where you got before setting off on this journey. So, Michiel, I wondered if you could briefly give us an idea of what happened to you in 2013 that set your life to become so different, and obviously how this journey really began.
Well, I guess it all began when I ended up in a wheelchair, kind of. In 2013, I had an accident in Thailand when I was traveling there, and I broke my back. And long story short, I broke my back, got paralyzed in my legs, and ended up in a wheelchair after a period of rehabilitation. And what happens, at least for me personally, when I ended up in this situation, is that you're kind of like reevaluating your whole life. In many ways, it's like being born again. You have to learn to put your clothes again, your shoes again, learn to shower, go to the bathroom. You learn a lot of things all over again, even though I was 27. And another thing it does with you is that your whole life becomes really limited. You're in the beginning stuck to a hospital bed, and you really question how you will be able to experience your freedom in your life again. And I think for me, pretty soon when I got to know handbikes, that freedom for me came in the form of a handbike. Like I've always loved to travel before as well, and I didn't see myself doing it in a wheelchair because it's pretty slow. So I started to look for new ways to experience this freedom, and I got like a grant from a Belgian organization to buy a handbike. Pretty soon, I was like kind of trying to connect the two, no, like handbike, traveling, what can we do? Can I do with these two? So I started to kind of build up the idea of doing a travel with this. Initially, I had the idea to go to India and Nepal with it, but then some friends of me traveled there by bike, and they said it was pretty challenging, the road sometimes with pretty dangerous conditions. So, and also the roads are not that ideal, the surface and so on. So I kept on searching. And I thought like, well, maybe Patagonia. But in the end, kind of through my mom and her partner were like nature photographers. I got the idea of like, okay, Alaska could be good because the roads were good, and I was kind of excited to see what it was like as well, the mountains, and as well I wanted to cycle the west coast of the U.S. Yeah, I had the idea for the travel, but I couldn't do it alone, and I didn't want to do it alone as well. So when Chiara and me we met about a year ago, I was like, yeah, maybe this would be something we could do together.
Chiara, am I right? You had just finished your university studies at the time as well?
Yeah, exactly.
What were you studying?
I studied to be a nurse, so I work hard for 3 years at the university, and I get my degree, and later I was just a little bit tired, and I want to try to travel alone in Europe, and I didn't know how to speak well English, so I thought that was a good idea to try with Workaway. Like this, I could meet people and improve my English. And like this, we meet each other because Michiel have a Workaway project in Portugal to renovate his house. And was kind of the first person that, the first host that tell me, like, yes, you can come. And so I have the ticket, and we met like this in Portugal. And maybe around like after 3 weeks, he asked me if I would like to do something like this. Yeah, the first thing that I thought was, I mean, you're crazy. How we do this?
Were you much of a cyclist before that, Chiara?
Yeah. For me, like to ride a bike, for me was kind of like ride my bike in my daily life. So when I was studying in Milan, and I have this bike, and I used to go to the university or to the hospital. So for me, the concept of riding a bike was more like moving from places. Yeah, I like the idea to try to do something like this. I never think about to do something like this. I'm happy that Michiel asked me this.
Michiel, you mentioned obviously, prior to the accident, you had this spirit of travel within you. You had, the spinal cord injury, which changed your life, and I guess you said, you know, it really, for a period of time, it shortened what you felt was possible. Then you discovered your rehab and your hand bike, and then started thinking of places to cycle. The Guinness World Record, how did that become part of that as well? How did it go from I wouldn't mind going on a long cycle tour to I wouldn't mind actually looking at setting the Guinness World Record?
It was a combination of several things. I think it was, in a way, kind of like a mechanism or an idea to keep pushing towards this goal and make it happen, to realize it. For myself personally, but also for the outer world, for other people, for sponsors, for people that supported our crowdfund campaign. It was kind of like the motivation, the goal behind the project. Another big part of it for me personally was that it was humans. There's importance to giving a contribution to society in a way, maybe, of kind of pushing the boundary of what we can do as humans. Yeah, this was another part of it.
To inspire.
Yeah, to inspire and to push what's possible, to show what people with a disability can do with their, like, focusing more on the abilities, not so much on the disabilities.
Oh no, absolutely. And I mean, that really comes across in the YouTube video series as well. Okay, so if I look to where the story is so far, you are both in Portugal. Michiel, you've asked Chiara if she'd like to join you on this expedition. Chiara, because you have this spirit of travel and I guess a yearning for adventure as well, you've said yes. How did you prepare for this trip?
So first of all, we need to we need the money basically for buy all of the things. So we organized to do to start our crowdfund campaign that is still open, and so this was the first things to do it. So after 3-4 weeks, we start to have kind of like 6,000-7,000 euros. So it was an amount that we could start to use. So our priority was buy the ticket for the flights and my bike.
We watched a lot of YouTube videos as well of other people cycling, and then we kind of tried to make up an educated guess of what we would need, and obviously kind of combining all that knowledge into also our specific situation, because I'm on a handbike, Kira's on a normal bike, so we're kind of way more limited in the stuff that we can bring. So we really had to be very selective in the things we wanted to bring.
Yeah, because Michiel, just the nature of your handbike setup, it's not really set up for, attaching 2 panniers on and camping equipment and food and all that. And it really comes across. I know you've got some small supplies on the handbike, but Chiara, you are really the workhorse of this team. I look at some of the video footage of Chiara on the bike. I imagine that the bike and everything that you are carrying probably weighs more than twice you. It is phenomenal what you were dragging on there.
I carry all of the things of Michiel, so also his sleeping bag, his mattress, his pillow, his towel, everything. But when we saw other cyclists that we met on the road, basically some people, they have the same setup that I have, and they are in 2. So I don't know. I'm carrying a lot of things, but I also the other cyclists, they carry much more, and they carry the same, and they are in 2. Well, also the things that we are carrying that other cyclists, they don't have to carry, they're catheters. So it's what Michiel used for go to the toilet. And of course, when the package arrive, we have a lot of them. And
so I carry stuff as well. It's not that I don't carry anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a volume question. There's just this space behind my little space behind my seat,
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, and
But yeah, I think we even have too much stuff still now. There's things we don't really use, like a little solar panel and so on.
yeah.
There's certain things that we actually rarely use, but it's pretty basic setup for the rest.
Yeah, and I guess, Chiara, you were mentioning before the extra complexity where, there's extra medical equipment that's necessary to help manage your condition on the road as well, Michiel. I guess, and I ask this question as someone who has done cycle tours on a bike before and has limited space, but for me, I could set out to do a cycle tour. I could map the route. I can say I'm going from A to B and this is what I'm going to do. As an able-bodied person, I'm oblivious to the other considerations I might need to think about. Michiel, with your condition and from an accessibility point of view, how did you go about planning for this tour with accessibility in mind? Because it's not the case that you could turn up to any campground or you could book any hotel or wherever you were staying, or even with warmer showers, and know that it would work for you. So it's an extra level of complexity. And is that something that you had to consider a lot in your planning phase?
Well, in a certain way, yes. In another way, totally not. Like, we had to consider it for the catheters that I need.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to kind of set up a distribution network, I guess you could say, or planning and the distribution planning of the catheters along the road. So we would plan certain supply drop or points where we could ship packages to about every
3 weeks,
every 2-3 weeks. That was definitely a challenge because it meant like calling to Alaska and being like, "Hi, I'm a traveler and I'm gonna be in your camping in 2 months. And can I have a package sent to you?" And people are like, "What?"
What? It's
And then I tried to explain the situation, like, yeah, it's medical material and I have a disability and I need to distribute this along the route because I cannot take all the catheters that I would need for all this period, because it would mean an insane amount and an insane quantity and volume. So it definitely took a little bit of persuasion for some people to explain them and so on. But once that was done, it was just about, I don't know, giving over to the to the project. Like, we just went for it, and accessibility wise, it was just a matter of like, okay, we'll see what happens when we're there. It was definitely not easy in many moments, like taking a shower or going to the bathroom. Like, often was quite complex in the sense that, like, imagine often there's no showers, so I would walk up to a stream or a lake and then just go and sit down next to the lake or stream and take off my clothes, get in the water, wash, and then come out again. And often with a lot of mosquitoes around me as well.
Did they drive you mad?
Yeah, the mosquitoes are maybe one of the worst things about the north.
Yeah.
Because they're there all the time. Sometimes even when you're cycling, if you're cycling too slow, they start to bite you.
Or if you stop to eat,
you can't eat really in a relaxed way because they're biting you while you're eating. And even though, so you have a net over your head,
and all of the
rain gear on, which is really warm. So you're like, yeah, you're kind of like in a constant state of stress as long as you're not in the tent. And then when you're in the tent, there are like just hundreds and hundreds of mosquitoes around you, like all the time. Yeah.
Well, actually, while we're talking, I guess, about mosquitoes, and I'm thinking about animals, one of the questions I have for you, and it's funny, it's just bears. I have so many questions. I'm Australian, and I guess in some respects, Australians almost hold it like a badge of honour that we come from a country with so many dangerous animals that can, cause you harm or kill you. but we don't have bears. And whenever I've thought of planning a trip up to Canada or Alaska, the front of my mind are, oh my gosh, there's bears. What would I do? And watching on your YouTube series, I think, Michiel, you're cycling along and you sort of say, oh, we haven't seen any bears yet. I sort of really want to. Then you take out the bear spray and say, this is what we've got. I'm like, far out. But you had some quite close encounters, probably closer encounters than you would have liked with bears.
Yeah, just one.
So what happened that night, Chiara?
So basically, we were camping this kind of self-camping that you have to register by yourself, and there is nobody there. There is just a compost toilet and other people. And yeah, we were just finished to eat, and we were ready to go to sleep. Basically, we were already in the tent, and I don't know, I saw a bear, a black bear, walking really chill in the campground, and I was thinking, why this bear is not afraid of to scream at him, but was not scared. So, and fortunately there was other people. Like they were doing like hunting and things like this, so they tried to scare him more. Like I remember they shoot like in the air to scare him, but I don't know. This bear was just walking around doing like circle, and yeah, it was kind of scary. And then at a certain point, the bear was almost on our table and tried to lick the rest. The remaining of our dinner, and yeah, these people they try to scare him again and again to chase him away, and it works, and it was working, and after we spent basically at least 2 hours with the other people there, close to a fire. And the funny thing is that in the night didn't happen nothing, fortunately. Maybe it was closed, maybe we didn't hear. But in the night when we woke up at 6:30, the bear was around again to found some food.
So yeah, there's this thing where when a bear has been fed, or it's found trash, they call it like a fed bear. And they say like a fed bear is a dead bear, because they start to connect human activities, to connect humans with food, and they're not afraid of humans anymore.
Mm-mm.
So it means they'll come too close to humans, and they'll become dangerous.
Yeah.
Because they're like, they can kill you with like one swap of their paw. Basically, they're really strong animals.
Yeah.
And so you were saying when you woke up, the bear was there. I mean, did you sleep well that night, knowing there was a bear around as well? Like,
no,
we did kind of sleep okay, because what happened was that our neighbor was traveling by car, so he ended up sleeping in his car, not in his tent. Had a bear alarm, which is kind of like this trip wire that you set around your tent. And when the bear would trip it, then an alarm goes off, like a really loud sound, and like this strobe goes off as well. So we had this thing around our tent, so it kind of gave us this false, I don't know, sense of security that we were kind of protected.
There were other people wake up all night with the fire and a dog, so we were kind of everybody ready if something happened. So
yeah, there are people with like shotguns and rifles, and
I could only imagine what it would have been like if it was just the two of you on your own there. Like, imagine just camping on your own. Like, there's this sort of sense of safety in numbers.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
We've had another situation another day when we were at this place called Pink Mountain, which was a funny story as well, because we were arriving at this campsite. And we go into the reception, and we're like asking the guy sitting there, like, hey, can we put our tent up for the night? He's like, yeah, you can, but are you afraid of bears? And we're like, I don't know, a healthy amount of fear, I guess. And he's like, yeah, because 2 days ago, the tent was completely destroyed by a bear. and there's loads of bears around here. So we're like, okay, it's not a great place to go and set up our tent. So we go across the road where there was like this hotel. We talked a bit more to people there, and we're like, yeah, can we maybe do wild camping up there? And the guy was like, yeah, you can wild camp there, but it's kind of like the path that all the bears pass. So we're like, oh, this place is just riddled with bears. And then we ended up taking a room in this really shitty hotel. Like it was like all wet inside for some reason.
But on the window there was
and on the window there was like like a smear of the bear.
Oh, I just have this vision. It's almost like a horror movie vision of like this bear paw just like landing on a window and sliding down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Because I guess the other complexity thing here is you're cycling big distances each day, so you're pretty tired. So the ability of just, oh, okay, we'll just go to the next town or the next town or the next town, it sort of becomes quite limited when, you know, the way to get there is to cycle there and you've already cycled a distance as it is.
Yeah. Especially in the north, you cannot really say exact to the next town because the next town is 600 kilometers, so maybe.
Oh, wow. Well, so how did you manage those big distances then? Like when you've got such big distances between you know, refuel points and big towns and whatnot. So is that something that you knew about before you set off?
Yeah. We knew was there was a 600 stretch, things like this, and we just we just bought a lot of dry food and.
We have a water filter where we can use streams to take water.
And
so just take a lot of food for plenty of days, the days that you plan to not have a shop, and then water we would get from streams. We would talk to other people in RVs mostly, ask them for some water. They would give us food sometimes. We're always trying to look hungry. We're not asking for water, so they would pity on us.
There's one of my other questions for you is in general, what was your experiences with other people and other travelers on your trip? Were they like, because you're obviously traveling from different backgrounds, different countries. What was your experience traveling through Canada and the US? What was it like when you met other people there?
Like it was a bit different in the north. In the north, we didn't encounter a lot of other cyclists. It was very rare. So our exposure to other travelers was mostly RVs, and I would say it's kind of like two different worlds. So we connect a little bit with these people, but it's such a different world that you also don't really connect that much with them. Besides occasionally maybe sitting around a campfire with them, that happened maybe once or twice. So it was kind of just me and Chiara for most of the time up north, west coast of the US, like north like Oregon.
The Rockies,
Also it's true. Jasper, Banff, west coast of the US. We were more like with other cyclists. So yeah, I think we felt that sense of community for a moment there in Banff and Jasper. But then we felt it more strongly once we connected with two of our friends that we met up in the Yukon. Like we met up with them in Lincoln City, which is like in Oregon. And then from then on, we started to cycle like with more people. And then we had this month where we like with a lot of other cyclists, and we would mostly camp in the same spots at night, cycle together sometimes. So it's kind of like really like you're with a family, like cycling with your family, with your bicycle family on the road with your friends.
And I guess sharing those sort of experiences as well, you probably bond a lot closer with people too.
Yeah, I think that's something that we're really happy about. Like this is our first cycle trip that we've done, and that's something I think we both didn't expect. Is that there's this great sense of community among people who are touring by bicycle, whether it's like bikepacking or touring. Is that we're like all together, on the same shifting perception somehow. Like you're on the same road sometimes, and then on the same travels, and you're sharing certain experiences together. And sometimes you're like see a person in Northern Oregon, and then now you meet them back in here in Mexico, and like it's really funny in a way. Like people, you're traveling all along the same routes and intertwining sometimes, and helping each other out.
When you were saying they're helping each other out, I guess it comes from a place of understanding what it's like. Like when you're a cycle tourist and you see that you've got a really long climb ahead, you know the effort that it's going to take to do that, or you've had 3 wet weather days in a row, you know what that experience has been like. And so to see someone else, you know that the efforts they're going to. I think sometimes, you could tell people that don't cycle, oh, I rode from here to here, and they go, oh, wow. And, you could be telling them you rode, I rode 500 kilometers this week, and they'll go, oh, okay, wow. But they don't have that context of what that's actually like. It's not just like something so simple. I think perhaps with meeting fellow cycle travelers on the road, there's that shared understanding from experience.
More comprehension, yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
you kind of go through the same hardships. You go to the same beautiful landscapes. You go to the same sometimes warm showers. No, you go to the same place. So there's like there's shared experiences that you bond over in a way.
So, Michiel, you were mentioning warm showers there. And so I guess for the benefit of our listeners, can you just explain what warm showers are?
So for people who don't know what warm showers is, it's like couch surfing, but for cyclists. So people can sign up as a host, offer their place free of charge to cyclists that are traveling. And then you get a place to either put up your tent, or if you're lucky, you get a room with a bed. And it really depends from host to host what the conditions are, but it's a place to stay, and it's always for free. And usually you get to be able to take a shower there, hopefully warm.
From your experience of warm showers, would you recommend it for people who are doing a cycle tour to seek out? Has it been mainly a positive experience for you?
Yeah, sure. Of course, yeah. Without warm showers, probably was not the same this trip, because give you the possibility, I don't know, to just give your help, or to stay in a house, to take probably rest days. And I think that we stay like with maybe 50 warm shower hosts in total in all of our route. And I highly recommend this. It's nice to connect with local people and share.
And I guess similar to the cyclists that you met on the road, just inherently people who are hosting cyclists as warm showers are cyclists themselves who've probably travelled on the road. And so, again, there is that shared sort of perception and experience of what you are doing. So it seems like there's a good compatibility with, the guests and the hosts for warm showers as well.
And I think what warm showers does is that it just gives you like a break from this kind of daily hassle that you have to go through to just have a place to sleep and a place to cook and live, and just kind of make you feel like you're a normal person.
In terms of the route that you took from where you started in Alaska all the way down, how did you plan that? Like, and I guess if I tie it back to the world record attempt as well, so there's obviously requirements, like when you inform Guinness World Records that you're setting out on a record attempt, are there things that you have to do to meet the requirements? And for this specific record attempt, did it have to be a certain, like, what distance did you need to reach to break it? And how did you come across mapping out a route that would be compatible with that?
Well, first of all, what you do is you apply to Guinness Records, and you say like, this is what I want to do, and this is how I want to do it, and then they kind of like pour that into a record form, no, and they tell you as well what the previous record was. In this case, the previous record was 5,421 kilometers, and was from 20 years ago, from 2002, from an Englishman. I don't know his name. So that was the old record. So that was the distance that we had to pass, 5,421 kilometers. We didn't really specifically look like, okay, what route can we take that has this distance exactly, because we knew that to get from Alaska to California would be more than this distance. So we didn't really specifically calculate like, okay, this is the route that we have to take. Chiara did spend a lot of time making a roadmap because we needed to know kind of where we were going to be at roughly what time in relation to the packages that we would have to send with the catheters. So that's like the most planning Chiara did for the route. Then for the world records, you have to gather certain evidence. We have a logbook that we had people fill in every day, so we gathered witnesses every day. So people said like, okay, we saw them on this day there, and these are our contact details, and Guinness Record can contact those people to verify that we were there on that date. Then we gathered GPS data, which has to be sent to them. Besides that, we have obviously the YouTube channel, which is like video evidence. Then there's Instagram, which is photographic evidence. And I think, that's mainly it.
Because you're still traveling on the road now, there's a point. So the existing record was around 5,400 kilometers, and you knew that traveling from Alaska to Southern California was going to break that record. Was there something in your mind of, I want to break that record by this amount, or was it, let's just see what's possible?
Yeah, of course. The initial, that's why our project is called VID Expedition. Because VID is the Roman numeral for 6,500. So that was the original idea that we had for the distance that we wanted to do. But then as we were traveling and we met other cyclists, we kind of were like, why don't we just continue and go to Mexico, which is probably going to be interesting as well.
Interesting, yeah.
Being a little bit fed up as well of Canada and the US, in the sense that it's pretty expensive there to just get around. Like everything's quite pricey. The culture is not unlike Europe, so we wanted to change things up really and continue to Mexico.
So 6,500 became the old target, and you set the new target was now Mexico, really, effectively?
Yeah, the thing is, the target. There are certain things that you have to take into account in relation to the record. That is, like, you can never use public transport. You can never hitchhike. You cannot stop for longer than 2 weeks. So there's certain limitations to having to stick to the record, and we wanted kind of to be done with that and be more free. So we decided, okay, we've done 8,600 kilometers, which is what we've clocked on for the record. And we're like, okay, we're gonna stop here in La Paz with the world record, get all the evidence to Guinness Records, and then we just continue at our own pace. So we get the liberty to hitchhike if we want, take public transport,
take a bus,
whatever.
So, I mean, you've well and truly broken the record now, and I guess to some degree it's going back to taking the travel back to the spirit that it was intended, Michiel, in seeing what is possible and opening up all your horizons and saying yes to opportunities and possibilities with different ways of travel now as well.
Yeah, totally. It's shifted kind of. Like in the beginning, I was like, okay, I want to break this record, I want to do this travel, get to Alaska, California, and I think now we've kind of realized that this is a lifestyle that we wanna have in the future as well. Maybe not permanently, but at least large portions of our year we wanna spend doing this, because it's a beautiful way of living.
And continue further through maybe Central and America and perhaps perhaps working your way down South America?
No, we
Not
won't.
this time. Not this time. We want to end it up in Cancun or maybe Cuba, but we don't know. And after this, come back to Europe and spend the summer there with our families and yeah.
Right now we're kind of figuring out what we want to do. We've got an offer as well to go to Africa, cycle 5 countries there. We might continue to Cuba, so we're kind of like planning out what we'll do.
I feel like you have some amazing choices to be able to make there.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Something else that came up during watching your YouTube videos is you ask a question of people that you meet and you ask them what they think the meaning of life is. Who came up with that idea?
Michiel.
Yeah, I came up with that idea because I just somehow wanted to have a simple way and not too long to get an insight into people's minds. And I think that it's in a way that's something that a lot of people reflect about, and that was a good way to
Also to
maybe funny as well to get instantly to people's.
But to include also people that we met and we spent sometimes that we felt a connection with them.
Yeah, and also to kind of have a meaningful thing to say for people who watch the video. Because I think it's nice to show surroundings and to show where we are and to show how we travel by bike. But I think it's also interesting to get like this short insight into people's way of living through this way.
Yeah, and for me, there were some very different sort of responses to it as well. I think there was one of the cycle travellers who was quite honest that I don't know. And, you know, from that end of the spectrum, you had other people answering in really, really deep and meaningful sort of ways as well. So it was quite interesting to see. I feel like there were common themes, but a lot of those responses were very individual too, which I thought was really good.
Yeah,
people never give the same answer almost.
So, Michiel and Chiara, if our listeners want to follow along and watch your travels from here on, where can they find you? What can they do to support your journey, and where can they find out more?
Okay, so YouTube channel is called Handbike Packing, and the other social media, of course, like Instagram and Facebook, they're called VID. Is also because we have another person that is doing the editing for us, so we'll be just really nice, or we'll be just really grateful if other people they want to help us with small donation because. Yeah,
so what Chiara is trying to say is that we're looking for new ways to fund our editor, basically.
Yeah.
We've had some sponsors, we had some organizations sponsoring us from Belgium. So if people want to support us, have a look at the YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Yeah, then to be really, especially subscribing to YouTube would be really helpful.
I can definitely, I binge watched pretty much in succession all of your videos. So for people who are looking for some great entertainment on the next rainy evening, just look up the Handbike Packing YouTube channel and start from episode 1 in the playlist and watch it through its entirety. I guarantee you won't get bored. It's really good and quite entertaining. So I just have another couple of very quick questions. These are cycling related. If you have the choice one day to have to ride on a constant uphill or into a really strong headwind, which one are you choosing?
I think the uphill.
I think I would choose the wind because I'm more aerodynamic.
You are more
aerodynamic. The wind doesn't bother me that much.
You would choose the wind. I wonder if that's the Belgian in you, Michiel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, of course. The other question I have, this is something I ask all of my guests, is if you were out for a day and you could cycle for half a day, so you're cycling for 4 hours, Would you rather be cycling on your own or cycling with other people?
Depends on the day. Some
Yeah.
days you like to be alone. Other days you like to be with other people.
I like to be with other people usually.
Yeah, usually with other people,
Yeah.
Well, Michiel and Chiara, thank you both so much for spending time with me and sharing your amazing story. I've really enjoyed chatting with you and getting a bit of a greater insight into your trip. And I'm going to be keeping my eyes peeled on all your channels and following along with your adventures.
Okay.
All right, thank
Thank
you
you so
very
much.
And good luck with your new podcast as well.
Thank you very much. If you've enjoyed this episode and would like to support the podcast, please leave a rating and review. It really helps the podcast to grow and reach a wider audience. Also, feel free to share it with others and post about it on your social media. Lastly, do you have your own story you'd like to share with us? Then please get in touch by sending an email to podcast@seektravelride.com and request to be featured as a guest on the show. Until the next episode, I'm Bella Malloy. Thanks for listening.